I bet you've got nothing to say about this. Ric Flair wanting another last match. Have you heard this, Shane?
I had, well, that's been really kicked around and bandied about since not
Oh,
long after the last one.
well, let me give you the quote. So this was an insight with Chris Van Vliet. Rick said, "I want to wrestle again right now. Isn't it crazy? I feel like because Ricky Morton, the guy that I should have chosen for my last match, would have been great. You know that what the best thing for me about it was is I forced myself to really get into shape. They gave me a goal and I just attacked it. I didn't stop drinking or anything, but I was training literally 3 hours a day." I see you laughing in the corner of my eye there. 5 days a week in the ring. Or I was doing the sled, the ropes. Yeah, I got my bench press up to 2.25. I mean, from being dead to all that was pretty cool. I've got like 4 more paragraphs, so I'll read just a bit of it. When the last match started to go wrong. In fact, actually, we can go on the last match again at some other point, but Ric Flair wanting to get back in there and basically having a redo.
Yeah. It's, look, like I said about Sting earlier, right? This is it's the most potent drug I've ever seen. When you're in front of a live audience, and I think Gene Simmons and Kiss talked about it in the Rio de Janeiro show. You get up there and you realize you can just tell this 500,000 people kill, and that that crowd's going to go do that. When you've been to the level, if you've been the guy that's the enhancement talent, but when you've been to the level Ric Flair has, right? I mean that he's imbibed in a lot more of that drug that I'm talking about, that opiate that I'm talking about, than most of us have, right? Because he's been to the stratosphere in the business. Damn near impossible to walk away from and go cold turkey on. You're never going to want to completely walk away from it. And I maintain that Rick doesn't need to. He is going to always be the elder statesman, or should be the elder statesman of our business. I love Terry Bradshaw. What an incredible quarterback for the Steelers. I don't want to see him playing for the Steelers today. Comment on him, go down and interview some of the guys, do whatever. There's a lot of ways to interact. But for me, and I guess it's part of my medical school training that Rick says that I didn't have. When you have a pacemaker, when you've been at death's doorstep, as Rick was, when you need to be put into a medically induced coma to save your life, understand that there are very scant few that come out and have any kind of quality of life after that. So again, he's hit the Powerball, right? He's able to still be around for his kids and his grandkids.
He was
given
5%, well, something like 5% chance of coming out of that, let alone coming out of that as physically okay as he is now.
Yeah, and able to still get in the ring after that. But when you go back, and I didn't watch it live, but I had gone back and watched it for one of my other podcasts that I had at the time. You could definitely see there's times he's struggling in there. And, and that's nothing against his opponent. My thinking is, you watch that and you see his family and his, friends sitting there right there in the front row. My God, what if something had happened? I mean, God forbid that would have been atrocious. And, he's capped off an incredible career. Why would you go back to it and run that risk again? It's my belief that Rick has this kind of weird, strange, morbid belief that he's going to die in the ring or something because he's Ric Flair. You can't die in a hotel room. You can't die in your bedroom. You can't die, just walking home from work. It's got to be in the ring. And I get the poeticism of that, but it's, to me, you look out at those grandkids and, those grandkids aren't going to want to read or hear you and me talking about these incredible matches this guy used to have. They're going to want to hear that from grandpa directly. Mm-hmm. And, and I think he owes it to them for that. Capped off an incredible career. My personal differences aside, I mean, he's the nature boy, Ric Flair, and be that Mount Everest to the grandkids and to your kids and to your fans and to everybody else. Please don't go in the ring again, especially if what we heard him say after that he had blacked out twice during that match. If I was the referee in there, I would have panicked.
Let me even build upon that. So this is another one of the quotes. So this is the last paragraph, so I may have missed something out. But basically, he's saying that he faked a heart attack because he was dehydrated. He doesn't mention that he was steaming drunk beforehand when he went in there. He had a load of drinks.
Yeah.
But he says, oh, God, they were just going to slam me off the top, suplex me, stuff on the floor. Everybody's just panicked. So these are all the spots that eventually just had to get cut out of the match. Everybody's just panicked. It all was a concern for me. They didn't forget their parts. That's his opponents. They just went, let's get through this. That's why I had to fake a heart attack. I went, slow down, I'm okay. I should have never said anything. So then we got a little bit more back in, but my son-in-law, Andrade, had to put the brass knucks on my hand. He's going, wake up, sir. That was it. So he's basically saying that he was feeling so terrible that he had to fake a heart attack to try and slow everybody down. But, I mean, he does come up with a different version of events every single time he's interviewed with this as well, so...
Yeah, as is, his working ways. But, you put these pieces of the puzzle together. You don't need to be an MD or a DO to say this is like a really bad combination of things. And, I would, if nothing else, out of respect for your fans, out of respect for what you'd accomplished in the wrestling business, I mean, why? I mean, the answer is the payoff, right? Somebody's gonna hand him a chunk of money to do it.
Yeah, but do you get it? Can you still sympathise with Rick? Yes, he's in his 70s and everything. Yes, he's physically really not up to it, or on game day he wasn't up to it. But do you still understand where he's coming from in that sense?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, like I said, this is when it's like what they say in the mob. Once you're in, you get tried and they pull you back in, right? When you've been to the levels, and I've never been to that level, I've watched it from a little bit below, and it's an amazing peak of a career. And there was a time when Ric Flair was the measuring stick in the business. If you're going to call yourself a great wrestler, you was going to be in comparison to what Flair was doing. And be proud of that. I mean, my God, he was. In many ways, he set the stage for what wrestling would become in the 80s and 90s and beyond. Be proud of that, be that elder statesman. But again, I don't think there's anybody in Pittsburgh clamoring for Terry Bradshaw to come back, or Ben Roethlisberger for that matter. If we could have them in their prime, that's one thing. We're not going to get Ric Flair in his prime. We're not going to get Terry Bradshaw or Ben Roethlisberger in their prime. So dabble around it, be that elder statesman. There's a million ways that you can interact with it, but I can sympathize with when he's 150. Hopefully he makes it too. He's going to want to get in there. That's the nature of being in this business. It's so hard to put into words and explain it to the fans that so adore this business. But being, and we'll talk about it in a different episode, watching one of Ricky and I's matches last night, I'm watching it and there's such like a fond draw there. Like, boy, if I could step right back into that screen and go back to that, because it was so special being in the ring with Ricky and in front of those fans. And I think you can see it in our faces. We're all, four of us, having fun. And, you could tell that Rick loved being in the ring and he was phenomenal at it. But, there's a reality that comes, with this life. If you get to the point where you can look back at your career and not be in that hole earlier, like so many of our friends, sit back and revel in that. It's he's got the podcast now, and none of it is ever going to suffice. It's never going to completely replace. I was doing this podcast is great, and I love reliving these memories, but it's never going to completely replace the feeling of being in that ring. But we got to experience that feeling in the ring. We had that opportunity. The fans gave that to us. So, I'm not saying not perform in some respect, but when it's beating the dead horse. But if you've been put in a medically induced coma and, all these things that we've talked about, that's the kind of the kind of gift horse you don't look in the mouth, right? OxyContin should have killed me. The amount of that I was taking during those 5 years that I was taking it should have killed me. There's no medical reason that I should be here right now with the amount that I was taking. I ain't looking that gift horse in the mouth. The fact that I'm still here for my kid, the fact that I could go see my kid play football last week, that I could go watch my kid play in an actual paying show in downtown Pittsburgh. Man, that's damn near as close a high as being in a main event at a pay-per-view. And I'm sure in some respects bigger. If you could say to me right now, okay, you could be back with Ricky Steamboat in the main event and having great matches with the Hollywood Blondes, or watch your kid in a show in Pittsburgh, or watch your kid on the sideline, high school football. I'll take those two. I'd love to do all three of them, but if you're only going to let me do two, I'll take those two because I have the memories of the third one. So I like I said, and it was heartfelt when I said it at the time when I found out that Rick was in this condition, I put into the coma. I wished him the best. Our differences aside, we've seen enough people die. I wish him the best, and like I said before on your show, I want him to find whatever happiness it is he's looking for. Clearly, if he's wanting to get in the ring again, he's trying to find something to replace that feeling, and nothing's going to ever completely replace that feeling. But I would think just turning and seeing those beautiful grandkids and watching them grow up, I marvel at watching my kids. So I think enough said about that. To me, please put the last match behind you. Be the elder statesman, be that sage that you could be for our business. I think it's badly needed right now, and none better than Ric Flair could do that.